Hello and welcome to the Alcohol Free Vibes podcast, a high vibe space where we talk about all things spirituality, manifestation, raising our vibrations, and walking away from the manifestation block that is alcohol. Whether you're newly sober, sober curious, or you've been sober for a long time, this is the place for you if you want to learn more about spirituality, manifestation, and how letting go of alcohol can make you so much more powerful at manifesting. It's time to stop drinking, start living, raise our vibrations, and step into our manifestation power. Let's get started. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Alcohol Free Vibes podcast. If you are listening to this episode on the day that it is published on Sunday, the 3rd of September, then you have until midnight tonight to sign up for the next round of Sober and Soulful, my immersive 6-week course that helps you let go of alcohol effortlessly, letting go of any FOMO that you might still have around not drinking alcohol so that you can step into your true manifestation power. You'll learn all about how alcohol is a manifestation block so that you can finally grab the steering wheel and manifest the life of your dreams, just like I did. So if you'd like to get on board for the next round, then please just send me an email at thrive@coachingbyannika.co.uk. Annika is spelled Anneka, and I would love to welcome you on board. If you're not quite ready for that yet and you'd like to do something different, then please go ahead and try out my 30-day alcohol-free challenge. It's only £20 and you get an email sent to you every morning at 6 o'clock UK time with an audio file in. All you have to do is listen to the sound of my voice and I guide you through step by step every day of your 30-day challenge. Sometimes I give you tips and tricks, sometimes I give you a pep talk, sometimes I give you a meditation audio to listen to. And I've had some amazing feedback about how supportive that is. Similarly, if you want to do something else, you could join the Sober and Soulful membership, which is £30 a month. You get a monthly theme with a video training that's self-led. You get journaling questions and meditation audio, and we have a monthly live call as well, which is really, really supportive, and a WhatsApp group. If you're interested in any of those, or you'd like to talk to me about one-to-one coaching, or indeed if you'd like to get yourself on the waiting list for the next round of Sober and Soulful, which will be in January, you can book in a free consultation with me or send me an email. To do either of those, send me an email to thrive@coachingbyannika.co.uk. In this week's episode, I welcome back my wonderful friend, Victoria Maskell, onto the podcast for our next episode in this series of What Do You Think About? So I will not spoil any of this week's episode for you because we're going to introduce it together in a moment when I hand over to us in the interview. But let's crack on and welcome the lovely Victoria Maskell and get started with this wonderful episode. Hello and welcome to another episode of What Do You Think About with myself, Annika Reese, and Victoria Maskell. And of course, this time we are on my podcast, the Alcohol Free Vibes podcast. How are you today, Victoria?
I am very good, thank you. I'm going to be very British as ever and go, the sun is shining, so I feel really good. We've got some sunshine.
Isn't the weather lovely? How wonderful.
I feel like I should be drinking Pimm's in the garden, but it would be non-alcoholic because I don't drink alcohol.
Or a cup of tea. Welcome back on the podcast, onto another episode of What Do You Think About? Would you just like to give a very quick intro to any of our newer listeners who have not met you before?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. So,
Okay.
my name is Victoria Maskell. I am a mindset and manifestation coach, and I specialize in the science of manifestation and the neuroscience behind changing how we think and feel. So, my background is that I have a degree in psychology and cognitive neuroscience. So, technically, I'm a psychologist. I absolutely love understanding how the brain works to help us deal with anxieties, fears, phobias, and how we think about money, which I think we might be talking about a little bit today.
Yeah.
Money is one of those topics that I love supporting people with because we all need money in some way, shape, or form, and we all have money mindset around money, good or bad. So that's one of the things I specialize in, and that's a little bit about me. Over to you.
So Victoria and I have so many crossovers and similarities. Obviously, Victoria is a money mindset specialist and I'm an alcohol-free specialist. However, Victoria does not drink. And we are both very grounded in manifestation in our business. And today we're going to really make some links between those two, because I'm going to ask Victoria the question, what do you think about the link between, get this, money and food? And before I allow Victoria to answer that question, I'm also just going to add the kind of context that I think alcohol can be linked to this, and it can also be separated from this, because alcohol creates a dopamine response, as do shopping and eating. However, there's a key difference, which is when we realize alcohol doesn't serve us anymore, we can completely eliminate it. Whereas we do have to cultivate a relationship, a healthy relationship with both money and food. They are things that we do want. They're not necessarily toxic. Our relationship with them can become toxic, but we do need to have them in our lives. So I just wanted to make that link with alcohol, because you as we're talking about this, you might draw some comparisons with your relationship with alcohol, but there is that key difference that we don't want alcohol in our life and we do want money and food. So over to you, Victoria. What do you think about the relationship between money and food?
Okay, there's so much I want to say, and I'm not really sure where to start. But the first thing I think to say is there is a clear relationship between money and food. And there is a clear relationship because as human beings, we experience patterns in our lives. So, my mentor, Terence Watts, who is the originator of BWRT, once said, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. And you and I were having our general conversation on WhatsApp, as we do. And we were just talking about this. And between us, I think we came to the conclusion of, oh, hang on a minute. I do this with food and I do that with money. Maybe I can take some of the things I've learned with one and apply it to the other. So there's a definite clear link. I know we're going to dive into this, but I want to actually touch on something you've just said about the difference with alcohol. So I work with clients using something called BWRT coaching, which is this lovely hybrid between coaching and changing your neural pathways, changing the way you see and think about things. And one of the things I work on is food. And actually, I was having a conversation with a client the other day, and she kind of said to me, I just struggle with food. I really struggle with my relationship with food. We obviously have a relationship with money as well. And she said, like, I just wish I didn't have to eat. And this is the thing, like, we have to have a really good relationship with food because we have to do it every single day. We have to almost do it in the right way or in moderation or in a healthy way. We can't just cut it off and we can't just ignore it. And we can't not have any parameters or boundaries with it. And it's exactly the same with money. I see lots of people who are going, oh, my relationship with money is just awful. Like they're burying their head in the sand, sorry. They're ignoring it. They're not thinking about it. They're not checking their bank accounts. There's a lot of fear surrounding it. They're like distancing themselves from it. Or they're in a position where they feel out of control with it. And I think out of control is a phrase we probably use with food, maybe with alcohol as well. But it's that feeling of like, I'm spending too much. I'm not saving enough. I feel like it's running away from me. I don't feel like I'm leading this relationship. And I think fundamentally, the way, like I said, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. And the good thing is, even if people are listening to this and going, oh my God, I don't even know where to start with it, I'm just going to put out right now, remember we can change our neural pathways. And if our brain has got a good pattern somewhere, it's even easier to apply that pattern to a different scenario or a different event. So if you can feel really confident in a certain scenario, your brain understands what confidence feels like, so you can apply it to something else. So if right now you've got an amazing relationship with money, you've got neural wiring that you can then apply to food and vice versa. So that's my kind of start on it. that they are massively linked, that we have these patterns as human beings. And I'm now going to say to you, like, what does it mean for you for there to be this link between money and food?
Well, for me, I think the reason that I even noticed the link was I was thinking back to myself when I was in my early 20s, when I was a bit lost. I was drinking too much after I'd left university, and I realize now that I was just in a complete dopamine trap with so many things in my life. I would sit at home, drinking wine, smoking, ordering things online. I remember I knew my credit card off by heart.
Wow.
Like tapping away, and then I wake up in the morning and be like, whoopsie. I always had so much money on my credit card that just felt really normal to me. And it was really this, I was in this constant state of like, I'm not enough. I know that's why I kept shopping and kept drinking and kept smoking. And I also was not in a very good place with food. I was constantly trying to lose weight, and I was constantly trying to like restrict my food and then binging. And really, when I look at how I was behaving in all of those areas, like, it was the same. I was binging on shopping, I was binging on alcohol and cigarettes. I mean, the difference with alcohol and cigarettes is there wasn't really the deprivation there. I wasn't actually having any days off. But with the shopping and the food, I was trying to restrict, and perhaps trying too hard, and really making myself feel dysregulated and deprived, and feeling really, really in lack. And then, which would result in a massive binge. So, I'd go to Oxford Street and like spend like £300 on and buy loads of clothes, be like, I just need them. So yeah, I mean, looking back now, it's just so obvious, but at the time, my life just felt like a bit out of control. So I'm interested, if we could wheel in myself in my early 20s, what would you do with her?
Well, where to start?
Oh
Right,
God.
okay. So I'm pretty sure this is the name of it, but there is this psychological thing that they teach you to do with eating behavior that's called set point theory. And I think Weight Watchers or Slimming World, one of the two, have kind of taken this on board, supposedly. This is what one of my clients was telling me. So the idea is that your brain wants to protect you from deprivation or not having enough. So what happens, for example, when people go on diets, they start restricting, they start cutting back. Now, what happens is your brain and your body have this sort of like healthy place. And if it perceives that you are restricting, that you are cutting back, it does things to try and get you to eat enough food. Now, from evolutionary perspectives, this was because of the famine at times. The different seasons meant food was and wasn't available. So it was useful. But it's like, remember, our brain hardware hasn't been updated for about 1 million years. We are living in this world where, for most people, we're incredibly lucky that food is abundant or fairly abundant. We don't live in this feast and famine, yet we still have that within us. So whether it's with money, whether you're saying, right, I've got to cut back, no, I've got to spend, whether it's with food, as soon as you start telling yourself, I've got to restrict, there is a part of you, probably your subconscious, your reptilian, that goes, no, we're going to be in lack. We're going to be in scarcity. Quick, we've got to do something about it. And we swing between the two. Now, what I would be saying to your 20-year-old self, well, there's probably loads, but the first thing would be, how can we get you to be balanced? How can we just calm this all down without going into the extreme of spending £1,000 on Oxford Street, spending on your credit card, and without the extreme of you're never allowed to buy anything, you can't buy any new clothes for 16 years. I don't know why 16 years, but
That's an example of how our brain catastrophizes, so that's very helpful. Yeah.
Exactly. Like, neither of the extremes is helpful because they don't represent balance, they don't represent equilibrium. Now, if you speak to someone who, feels they eat in a healthy way and they have a healthy body and they have a great relationship with, let's say, food, they'll probably say something. Well, I'm going to use myself as an example, and I'm going to say I hope I feel like I have a fairly healthy relationship.
Yeah.
I really like food. I like dessert. I like cooking. I like eating. but I never get to a stage where I have restricted myself so that I have to go into what might be a binge type cycle. I used to. I used to say to myself, oh my gosh, you can't eat that, Victoria. Stop that. No, you can't have it. No, cut back. Stop eating sugar. And then what would happen is I'd go to the supermarket, I'd buy a packet of muffins and eat all four and think, I feel disgusting.
Mm.
Now, we're obviously not talking about like clinical eating disorders here, but what was happening was I was restricting. My brain was saying, we need to have all of it because you're going to cut back, eating too much. And now I just feel like I'm in that position where it's like, do I want it? Not really. Do I want a chocolate bar? Actually, yes. Like right now on my desk, for anyone who's watching this, there is a large, oh, you can't really see it. There is a large bowl of roses and celebrations. But because they're here, I know that I can have them when I want them, but I don't have to have them. So what I'm really talking about is balance, is stopping getting into that restricting and overindulging stage, finding a way to, you maybe say, calm your nervous system,
Yeah.
maybe this might be something you want to touch on. Actually, I'll ask you the question. Like,
Okay.
I want to say ways of calming your nervous system and ways of stopping using these behaviors, eating, spending money, whatever, to solve a problem. So, would you call them numbing behaviors?
I would call them numbing behaviors.
Okay.
And I think from the food perspective, there's a couple of things going on here, because when we look at all of these numbing behaviors, when we're using them to anesthetize feelings that we do not want to feel.
Yeah.
We're trained as children to do this. When we're told, be a good girl, don't cry, have some chocolate, well done, good girl, thank you for stopping crying. And we are conditioned to push our uncomfortable feelings down and to be a quote unquote good girl and not cry. So
Mhm.
we are taught to do this with sugar and food. We then learn to do it as adults with wine, because that's the grown-up version.
And
um
money. Money's
and
the grown up
money.
version.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just going to go and buy myself something fabulous and everything will be fine, I'd like Sex and the City taught me to. So we've got these things going on, and actually a huge part of an alcohol-free journey is about learning how to feel our feelings. But this is why lots of people in the alcohol-free community, when they stop drinking, initially might find that they have cross addictions, because it's all very well and good stopping drinking. It's the first part of the healing journey, but you then need to do the next bit, which is, I'm actually going to feel the feelings now. I'm not going to numb them with something else.
Yeah.
So we've got that going on. With the food, I mean, you could probably tell me more about the neurochemistry with with shopping, and you might say there are some similarities here, but there are two other neurotransmitters that we have to consider, which are leptin and ghrelin. So
Mm.
I know we've talked about these before, but ghrelin is for those listening, the hormone that makes us feel hungry, and leptin is the hormone that makes us feel full. So I remember when I first tried to do intuitive eating, when I was really, really, really out of balance and binging quite a lot, and being like, I can't bloody do this. I can't do it. It's not for me. And I realized, as an adult, even though I was apparently an adult at the time, but that's debatable. I realized now, when I was watching Natasha OCN's YouTube, I don't know if you've heard of her. She's like quite a well-known athlete who had an eating disorder and is now an intuitive eater. And
Okay.
her I can't remember what their title is, but the person that worked with her to help her heal basically said, you can't actually eat intuitively. Like, everyone can do it eventually, but initially you need to be biochemically balanced.
Yeah.
So if you're binging a lot, and if you're restricting a lot, your brain produces lots of
Ghrelin.
ghrelin and less leptin to prime you to binge, because it's trying to protect you from dying of starvation.
Yep.
Initially, when we first try and eat intuitively, we basically just end up binging loads, because our brain's like, oh, thank God. And then people can get freaked out, and then they go back to restriction, which is definitely what happened to me. And really, this is what you have to, I mean, this is all like eating disordery stuff, but you need to do what's called mechanical eating to start off with, to train your biochemistry. Like, we don't need to produce all of these hormones. Anyway, we're going slightly off on a tangent here, but with with alcohol and money, we haven't got leptin and ghrelin to consider, have we? So tell me, is there anything you could add to, or like give me a different perspective on how the chemistry by neurochemistry is working with those other two things?
Yeah, so I think you're right that biologically we have to eat. We have biochemicals that actually cause us to eat or tell us we are full. If
Mm.
we can get to a point where we're so balanced that we can listen to our body, happy days, we're fine. With money, there isn't a ghrelin and leptin kind of equivalent. However, I would say it's the reward pathways. It's what we've learned about money, what we have learned through experience, through growing up. You touched on it about maybe like Sex and the City and sort of like, oh my God, I'm going to treat myself. Like, I definitely was influenced by that. I have a shoe room in my house, and the Carrie Bradshaw, I can't even say it, Carrie Bradshaw Manolo Blahniks. I think the blue ones with the oh, just beautiful. Shoes and me, we've got a beautiful relationship. I said, shoe room full. However, we all have a slightly different relationship with money as a result. But a lot of it comes down to a survival feeling, which is really similar to food.
Yeah.
Survival with food is we have to eat. If we do not eat, then we will die. But we have to eat the right amount, because if we eat too much, we could cause ourselves health problems. With money, we have to have money to be safe, to be able to survive. Now, what that means is going to be different for every single person, depending on where in the world you are, what your level of everything is. But there is that core feeling of, if I don't have money, I'm not safe. Now, that is going to trigger people in so many different ways, because it's not actually about the amount, it's about the feeling. So, with money, we can get into a place where, we are restricting, we are trying to hold on to it, we're trying to save it, we're trying to protect it, because we have this feeling of, I don't feel safe with it, I don't have enough, I'm not secure. And then on the other hand, you can have this splurging feeling where it's almost like, oh my God, it's so amazing. It's reinforcing. It's giving me so much dopamine. I feel so good. I'm buying all these things. Or potentially that could be driven by, I don't feel worthy. I don't feel good enough. I don't feel safe having money. Money and me don't really go. So I'm going to find a way of getting rid of it. Now, that second one isn't necessarily a conscious thing. I don't think anyone goes, oh, wow, I've just been paid. Oh, yuck, I've got to get rid of this money. But on a subconscious level, it's very easy to have patterns that are telling you, you are not worthy, you don't deserve it, you're not good with money, get rid of it. Or how shameful, you have money, you should feel guilty because someone else doesn't, right, get rid of it, spend it, give it to someone else. I often ask people the question, if you won £10 million tomorrow, what is the first thing you would do with it? And generally speaking, the first or maybe the second thing people say is something about giving a large chunk of it away, whether that's to charity, whether that's supporting a friend, whether that's a partner, something. Now, obviously, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I think that's wonderful. And could there be some subconscious patterns in there of not feeling safe with it, not feeling that you deserve it, not feeling like you can hold on to it? So I think what I'm kind of saying here is money and survival are linked, food and survival are linked. You can restrict your money and that can be negative. You can splurge your money and that can be negative. What you want to find is this equilibrium, this happy balance. And I think you were talking about it yesterday, but I've just created a podcast episode on this money maths, this equation, where we're actually looking at in and out. It's the same with food. Like, how much are you moving your body? How much are you putting in your body? How have you got a nice, healthy balance, whatever that looks like for you? With money, it's the same thing. How much are you bringing in? How do you feel about earning? How do you feel about attracting abundance? And where are you spending? What level are you spending at? There's got to be a flow, but which bit is out of equilibrium? And that's the bit you want to focus on to be able to get this balance, to feel safe around money.
So here's the interesting question. This is where we start getting really, really deep.
Okay.
Because in our external behaviors, like our balance, our in and out, with whether it's with food or whether it's with money, we've got those external behaviors, and you can easily go, oh, hang on a minute, I can see exactly what you're doing wrong. You are getting paid every month and you are spending it far too quickly. And that's clearly what you need to sort out. Now, you and I both know that subconsciously we all have limiting beliefs about ourselves, and about what is safe, that are actually driving the bus, if you like.
Yeah.
So how can people listening start to get curious about what those might be?
Oh, okay. So just start looking. I think this was part of our conversation that we were having on WhatsApp. Like, I suddenly went, oh my gosh, I've just realized that the way I do this is the way I used to do that. And that awareness, that noticing has to be the first stage. So things like when you get paid, how do you feel? Just ask yourself, the money's come into your bank account, or you've just signed clients or sold products if you have a business. How do you instantly feel? Have you got feelings of, oh, that's amazing, can't wait to spend it? Great, it's going in my savings. Are you feeling like, oh, that isn't enough? And really look for those instant responses, because when you're looking for subconscious patterns, it's not the logical side of you, because logically, we all know how to eat and we all know how to deal with money. This is another conversation I have with clients. I would say 95% of clients who work with me on anything to do with either food or money, to be honest, they say, I know how to eat. I know the right foods, or I know what I should be doing, because I'm not a financial advisor and I'm not a nutritionist. So that's not my remit. But it's like they then say, but I don't get why I self-sabotage. So self-sabotaging with food is when they've got a fridge full of healthy meals, they love cooking, but they go and have a takeaway instead. And they're like, I don't get why I did that. So in that example, I would be saying, right, there's going to be something subconscious driving that. Just ask yourself, what was happening? What were you feeling in that moment before you made the decision to go and have the takeaway rather than cook the food in the fridge? Was it tiredness? Had your partner just annoyed you? Had something bad happen that day? Had something really good happen that day? Because all of those examples will give you an idea of what the pattern is. So if the pattern is you've just had the best day ever and you're like, no, I'm going to treat myself. So there's some reward. There's an association between something good has happened, I'm going to treat myself, and the treat has become a takeaway. There's nothing wrong with takeaways in general. Of course there isn't, but we're talking about looking at patterns.
Yeah.
If it's that you've just had a really bad day, okay, so you're feeling a different type of emotion. The subconscious pattern is probably, I don't feel good, so therefore I'm going to eat this. Now, it could be that you say, well, I might as well sabotage it. I might as well eat bad food because I feel bad. Or it could be that bad food. I don't really like the word bad. That takeaway, it will say, because I don't like good and bad.
Non-ideal food or fun food, or
yeah, or just like not what was your plan,
yeah.
you whatever that might be. It might be that you're saying, well, actually that's the only thing that's going to cheer me up. You're trying to change an emotion. Once you realize that, you can kind of stop and go, I don't know if I actually want that takeaway right now. I'm feeling a feeling, or this is my pattern, or this is something I learned from childhood. Right, look at it and then go, okay, I can still go and have that takeaway, but I need to know that I'm doing it not because I really want the takeaway necessarily. I'm doing it because I presume that's how I want to celebrate, or I presume that's going to make me feel better. And in terms of our emotions, if we actually stop that speed train of like, or stop the bus, as you're saying, you stop kind of feeling that emotion, and you can actually make a different choice. But you've got to be aware of it, because I talk about BWRT all the time, and how everything, or no, I shouldn't say everything, a large amount of stuff comes from the reptilian, the subconscious. It's an instinctual response. Like if there's something falling off a table, you just go to grab it. You don't think about it. It's the same with food. It's the same with money. You're like, oh yeah, I'll just buy that. Oh, I'll just charge that. Oh, I'll just eat that. If you slow down a minute and go, right, hang on a minute, I'm in the shop. I've seen that dress. The dress is lovely. It fits me. Do I want to buy it? Yes, I do. Why do I want to buy it? And then you might notice, and I've noticed this one, a feeling of, because if I don't get it, it might not be here. I'm like, wait a minute. So I'm buying it out of scarcity, not because I love it, not because I have a thing I want to wear it to, not, it's like, oh, am I actually in scarcity? No. Will there always be really nice dresses? Yes. Do I really want this one? Not really, because actually it's not going to do what I want it to do. Oh, okay, I'm going to put it down. And you feel completely differently about it. Does that kind of make sense, that process of like looking at the why?
And what you're really describing there is what I would call creating space.
Ooh.
Yeah, and really, I'd say this is how we take like yoga and meditation off the mat, because yoga and meditation are about helping you to create space. It's that space between, it's almost like a brain synapse, right? There's a
Yeah.
space,
Yeah.
but it's the space between that impulse and the action. And the more we self-witness, the more mindful we become, the more space we create, and then the more choice we give ourselves, because we can feel it and then we're like, what do I think about the fact that I've just had that thought? Yeah, no, thank you, not today. And it gives us that power back. Whereas when we don't have that space, we just become like autonomous, right? And Dr. Joe Dispenza says that, if we don't create that, he doesn't use this terminology, but what he's really saying is if we don't learn how to create space and to self-witness past the age of 30, we lose all free will, which I think is
Yes.
terrifying.
Absolutely terrifying. So in BWRT, we'd probably call that the cognitive gap.
Yeah.
So it's like there's a tenth of a second between your subconscious or your reptilian complex initiating a response and you being consciously aware of it. Now, tenth of a second is a fraction in time, but in terms of the brain space, 50 meters of electrical activity has been covered. So you are then sat in a position where so much has happened towards what you're going to do. So you're going to have a drink, you're going to spend that money, you're going to feel a certain way or eat food. Actually, if you don't stop and go, what is this? It's like the momentum just takes you. And yeah, exactly that. You become autopilot, sorry. You become a habit, you become a product of your past conditioning. And that's great if it's really supportive of where you want to go in life. But I think for most people, we've got something that we want to change, or we want to up level, or we want to do better, or we want to do differently. And to make that change, you have to go, whoa, hang on a minute, what am I doing? Actually look at your day to day. Mindful eating, like, again, this is another thing that comes up. Being or lacking in mindfulness with spending and eating. It's the same thing. You like, okay, I could be sitting here with my thing of chocolates, watching something, just going 1, 2, 3, 4, and then suddenly I'm surrounded by wrappers, and I'm like, whoa, didn't even notice that because it's on autopilot. Same with spending. You're putting stuff in your trolley, you're going through the shops, and then suddenly you're like, whoa, how have I spent £200? What? It's that lack of awareness. You're just doing things because your subconscious is like, yeah, eat the food, you'll feel good. It will feel good. Spend the money. Yeah, great. Oh, thank God we feel better. We're not thinking about that other thing now. But actually, if you stopped, you'd probably go, 2 chocolates is fine. I don't want any more. 1 dress is fine. I don't need 16. It's 16 again. Ooh, what does 16 mean?
16th of August, and it's a new moon.
Is today the 16th of August? Oh, well, there you go then.
Okay, so we talked at the beginning about how we might notice, or I'm sure everyone can notice in their life, like let's say you've got one thing that's really resonating with you right now, and you're like, oh my God, I definitely do that with food, or I definitely do that with money. We've probably all got one area that we can say, oh, but in this area of my life, I'm actually really mindful, and I am really intuitive, balance, and have that balance that you're talking about. And you talked at the beginning about how we can kind of borrow the neural pathways from those to help. So what would be our first step then in doing that?
Right, okay. Thank you for asking me that question, because I just think it is one of the easiest solutions to something that could feel like a big problem, if you like. So I would say, so let me give my example. So let's say someone wants to change money.
Yeah.
But they feel really confident in their eating behavior. Let's do it that way.
Yeah.
So for example, I might say, how do I eat? So I'm just going to ask myself the question, okay, how do I eat? I eat when I'm hungry. I enjoy food. I enjoy eating food and going out for meals and having desserts. And at the same time, I enjoy putting healthy foods into my body, going to the supermarket and going, okay, I'm going to get some crudité, I'm going to get some hummus, because I know that there's that really good balance. And I find it quite easy most of the time just to be like, what does my body need? So if I was thinking about that, that's an area of my life that I feel really good in. If I took that feeling and those actions and I literally lifted them up and put them onto money, I would just ask myself the question, what would that look like for spending and saving? And I might say, and I'm just kind of thinking this off the cuff, but I might say, okay, so there's no need for me to restrict and there's no need for me to indulge, because money is always abundant, money is always coming to me, there will always be plenty. And I want to be the kind of person who is really good with money, really savvy with money. I want to be developing this really good relationship in the same way that I want to look after my body. I want to look after my relationship with money. So I don't want to be pushing it away, and I don't want to be holding it onto it so tightly. So what might that look like? Right. And I think one of the things that we were talking about is I'm getting really excited about getting good at the game of investment, like getting good at, like, I don't know, looking at different ways, learning ways of doing it, being like, oh my gosh, okay, I've added this to the pot today. That's fun, that's exciting. In the same way I find food fun. I like baking, I like cooking. So I've borrowed that from that. And also, I guess that feeling of it's okay. Money isn't going to run out, so I don't have to hold on to it tightly, but also you're allowed to keep hold of it. You don't have to get rid of it. It's not this thing that you just sort of have to like not look at. It's like, make it a really positive relationship. Make it an easy thing in the same way that food can be an easy thing to do. So I don't know if, do you want to give the perspective the other way round? Like if someone was like, I feel really good with money, but I want to change how I feel about food.
Well, the first thing that I would like to say, that the kind of the thread that I'm hearing between those two things is it's about feeling regulated. Our
Yeah.
nervous system in both of those situations is regulated. And when we say regulated, it doesn't necessarily mean we have to be in rest and digest all the time in our like pre-sleepy, yawny, like shavasana mode. We can be in, according to polyvagal theory, we can be in like social mode where we are basically stimulated and excited, but we've also kind of got our green light on. We've got our dorsal vagus. Hang on. Dorsal. Is that right?
Dorsal, well, I'm going to say yes. Dorsal fin on the back, vagus nerve in the throat.
Like, where have I got that from? But we can have like the green like regulated, like calm part of our brain on, as well as like being a little bit in like amber mode, and they kind of balance each other out.
Yeah, so
So,
regulation doesn't have to be calm and relaxed. It can be excited and fun, but
yeah.
not boiling over into dysregulated anxiety type feeling.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we can feel, so I was just thinking about that energy of like fun and playfulness around like
Mm,
baking cookies and being like, oh, this is so much fun.
yeah.
How we can feel like when we are
Mm,
feeling excited about saving money or learning about money. So for me, I mean, you could say this with all manifestations, right? And if we can, when they talk about like not manic manifesting, not chasing things too much, not pushing them away, it's about holding things loosely. Really,
yeah.
manifestation theory is really alluding to, you need to be regulated, you need to be grounded, you need to let go of that frenetic what if I don't get it energy, because that is only ever going to push your manifestation away. It's the
Yeah.
same with money. It's the same with having a healthy relationship with food. That frenetic, panicked energy is
Mhm.
not ever helpful. So, in terms of food, then, I mean, I think I touched upon like giving your brain chemistry a good chance by just being a bit regimented. If you feel really, really out of whack with food, starting off with just giving yourself that regimented routine so that your body and brain calm down a little bit. But how would I apply it for money? I think I'm laughing because I'm like, yeah, but I think I had to start with both of them at the same time, so I wasn't able to do that.
Okay.
But I
Well,
think it comes from much lack and abundance for me. So
yeah.
let's say I've got a really good relationship with money, and I've let go of my lack mindset. I know that there's always more money to come. When I save money, I don't do it out of a feeling of deprivation. I do it,
Mhm.
it feels like pure abundance. I feel more abundant the more I save. When I don't buy something, it makes me feel more abundant. And when I do buy something, it's because I've decided I really want it. And that makes me feel more abundant. So everything is coming from the energy of abundance, right? And it works with, when I'm then working it back to food, it's the same thing. It's about, everything is about me feeling abundance, everything is a pleasure. And I remember when I got my balance back with food, it was when I saw that every meal is an absolute pleasure. And
Mm,
even when I wanted to eat something super, super healthy, I would spend loads of time and effort making it really delicious. I was so creative with my cooking. I was always looking up recipes. I would make healthy like versions of all of the fast food things I wanted to eat. And food just became an absolute delight.
Yeah.
And that's how I flipped the switch. And I had like sensible, regular meal times. I never told myself I couldn't eat. I was like, make a healthy snack, make butternut squash chips instead of going and getting a McDonald's, make something. So yeah, it's about being in the energy of abundance, isn't it, really?
And I think there might be people listening who are thinking, oh, I need to change money and food. So what do I do? So actually, I think you've made a really good point that, sorry, that sounded like I didn't think you were making really good
You
points, Jenny.
actually
But
spoke
like,
some sense for once,
actually, the
you
Annika, that was
do.
really good. Sorry, poor use of
Love it.
language there. What I was trying to say was, that's a good reminder that it doesn't just have to be money and food. It could be
Yeah,
other areas of your life where you feel really calm, you feel really in control, you feel you've got a great relationship. Maybe it's love. Maybe
yeah,
you are just amazing at attracting fantastic friendships. Maybe you've got great family relationships. Maybe you've got an amazing partner in your life and you're like, I feel so regulated and so good in this relationship because a partner, romantic relationship or friendship, there's give and take. In food, there's give and take. In money, there's give and take. It's all about this cycle of in and out. So, anywhere in your life where you feel abundant, you feel secure, you can take that pattern. Because I liked what you were saying about the sort of scarcity bit. I suffer from hangriness. Oh my gosh. I think I'm quite a calm, mellow person, but dear Lord, if I am hungry, I do not make the best food choices. I'm like, I need a sandwich quick. I need it now. Because I haven't listened to my body. I've got too hungry. If you are sat there with money going, oh my God, I'm so in scarcity. I don't know how I'm going to pay my bills. You're not going to make good choices with money. You're not going to be able to look at a situation really calmly, really rationally, because you're in that fight or flight state. So, again, imagine like, okay, what do I do in other areas of my life to be calm, to be rational, to be in control? Where do I feel? Maybe it's when someone's doing yoga. Okay, so what do they do in yoga? They calm their mind, they calm their breathing, they move their body in a certain way. Okay, how can you take those patterns and apply that to money or food? Does someone literally need to take a minute before they make decisions around food and just calm their body, calm their mind? Maybe. Like, there are so many different ways of doing it, but I think what we're both saying is you can borrow from other areas of your life, even if it's something that you might say is small. You've got neural wiring around it. You can do it. You've even if you've done it once in the past, your brain can do it again. So
love it.
use that and go, oh, have the awareness, look at what's going on, and borrow those neural pathways.
I love that. And actually, yeah, everyone has one area that they know they're really badass at manifesting. I would say my area is definitely friends. I am so blessed. I always have such lovely friends, and I feel so secure about that
Yeah.
I don't like it. I don't care if people don't like me. I'm like, yeah,
That's such a freeing thing to say,
yeah,
though, isn't it?
I
Like,
really don't like. I'm now I've said this, I don't want to manifest loads of hate. But but I just know that I'll always have lovely friends, and I believe in it so strongly that it just always happens, and I don't need to like
yeah,
try and make it happen. And actually, like I'm sure lots of people listening to this have something like that, or maybe they have the same thing that they, oh yeah, I do feel really secure about that area of my life. Use
yeah.
those pathways.
Yeah, and it will be different for everyone. Like, I agree. I think I'm so lucky that I've got really, really great friendships. Someone else might be like, I'm so good at manifesting money. I'm so good at manifesting a job. Like, I'm so good at manifesting travel or houses or whatever. Like, manifestation really, like you touched on earlier, boils down to that feeling of knowing. Just
Mm,
like knowing. Like, I know I've got really good friends. I just know that. I'm so lucky. Like my family, I just know they're so kind and so caring. So that's what I anticipate. That's what I expect. If you want to manifest a great relationship with food, you want to get to that place where you're like, I just know I listen to my body. I just know I give my body great food. I just know that I've got this. What was the phrase you used earlier? Oh, I can't remember. This just great relationship. Getting to that can take a little bit of time, yes, but once you're there, it's just so, it's like gliding. It's like a
yeah.
swan gliding over a lake. You're just like, I've got it. I can do it.
gracefulness. I love it. I've just realised we've been talking for quite a long time, and I'm
Us
just
talking for a
really,
long time.
yeah, I'm just really saving our listeners, because guys, Victoria and I could probably go on for another hour, but you might be like, really? We talk pretty much all the time, so we're used to just chatting away. But for those of our poor listeners that are not poor people that would like to get on with their day, and they want to implement the awesome things that we've been telling them, where can they find you online? Because I bet there will be some people that want to ask you some more questions.
Awesome, thank you. The best place is to come to Instagram. So I'm at victoria.maskell, Maskell. Come and say hi. Let me know that you've been listening to this podcast. If you're not on social media, then drop me an email to victoria@victoriamaskell.com. And if you've enjoyed this episode, don't forget to come over to my podcast, where Annika will be coming on for our next episode. My podcast is the Positivity and Prosperity Podcast. We would love to have you as part of that family as well, because Annika and I are going to continue doing these "What do you think about" episodes. So you don't want to miss the next one.
Yeah, so the next one will be on Victoria's podcast. Watch this space. I'll obviously let you know on my Instagram and TikTok when we do that too, and yeah, we'll continue to keep visiting each other, basically.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Awesome.
Thanks so much for coming on today, Victoria.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to me today. If you would like to have the chance of winning a free one-to-one coaching session with me, then I'd love it if you could leave me a 5-star review. All you need to do is take a screenshot of the review and send it to me at thrive@coachingbyannika.co.uk, and I would love to connect with you. If you would like to connect with me further and you'd like to download my free guide, then please go to my website and you can do that, and you'll be added to my mail list. Or if you would just like to book in a free discovery call with me, then you can do so via my email address or through my website. All of these links will be in the show notes. And I hope you have a wonderful, magical, sober week, and I will see you this time next week.